What is popping, bit party people? The topic I've chosen this time is another aspect of character design that plays a pretty major factor in conveying personalities to the viewer: color psychology. Humans evolved to have cones in their eyes to see color, and we subconsciously associate different things or feelings based on the colors we see. And artists are more than aware of that when creating their characters. Let's get started with a quick distinction between two similarly sounding ideas: color theory versus color psychology. Color theory refers to how light and color is viewed through human perception. A color close to white will look different in different lighting scenarios, even though our brains are still able to make the distinction that the color is white, even though it may look brown or pink. Color psychology is the emotional connections humans have to different colors based on where we see them in real life, used in design and art direction. Sometimes these terms are used interchangeably, but I just wanted to establish the actual difference between these two topics. We're going to be talking about color psychology. We're going to go through the good and bad associations of black and white, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, and earthy tones. Then I'll finish off with some different color palettes. First, I'm going to cover the different aspects that make a color in design. Hue, saturation, and value. These terms are used a lot when referring to the properties of colors in different pickers within digital software. Hue refers to the primary wavelength, or its base color. Saturation is the intensity of a color. A low in saturation red is pink, for example. Value. This is the amount of lightness or darkness in the color. When combining these different qualities, you'll get hexadecimal codes for different colors. It goes without saying that warmer colors carry and are associated with more energy compared to cooler ones.
Watch out for friendly fire.
Warmer tones are typically given to more sociable or extroverted characters. Also, more saturated colors with more value are seen as more sociable as well. An example in some characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender would be Ty Lee, Azula, and Mai. They're all different shades of red, but you can assume they're different personalities based on the saturation and value of the reds they wear. I haven't chosen any characters in particular for this topic, so I'll be going through as many as I can find. Some of the media I physically own, while others I have to record over a streaming service, or others I don't own at all, so the bitrate and quality may change a bit between the franchises. Also, just because I'm using a character from a particular show or game doesn't mean I think it's good, I'm just using it as an example. Now let's actually start with the colors. Black and white. Black and white are seen in pure light and in pure darkness. The good about black is that it hides in darkness well, hides silhouettes, hides stains well, and it's more practical when compared to white. The good about white is that it represents purity and cleanliness. It's orderly. It's very easy to stain, so for a character to have it, they'll either get dirty or take a lot of care to clean themselves, and it's angelic-like. That's why you see it used a lot in weddings. It's supposed to be pure. The bad associated with black is that it seems amoral, apathetic, evil, and it hides well, and it's sneaky. The bad with white, as said earlier, is that it stains easily. It can be associated with holier-than-thou attitudes.
Well, you didn't say they were from the Undercity.
What difference does that make?
They're dangerous.
I'm from the Undercity. You're right.
And neat freaks. When used on characters, it can make them sometimes feel apathetic to your cause, as if there's some sort of gap in empathy between one character and another. Blacks, whites, and grays are used a lot in bridging aspects of a character's color palette, but it can also be a main player too. But even when it acts as a connection, it can make more sense to have a color be black rather than white, like with lots of undersuits designs, such as Master Chief or Go-Go. It wouldn't make sense for their undersuits to be white. It would look kind of weird, and plus they'd get really dirty easily since they're a character that's kind of getting shit done with their hands. Some characters also have metal joints, so those are likely monochromatic and metallic, but closer to black and gray rather than white. When an artist puts a lot of white on a character, they're typically trying to convey to the audience that this character either views themselves or their actions as very pure in intent, kind of free from criticism, which again ties into that holier-than-thou attitude.
What's the use of growing up if the only thing that grows is your useless sentimentalism? You're still a good-for-nothing, pathetic wimp!
Purple is seen in some harmless flowers, but quite a few poisonous flora and fauna. It's also linked with royalty and wealth.
Spectra, the profits would leave on the table.
The numbers are in, and you are out.
Well, that makes no sense, you idiot.
The good with purple is that it's seen as unique, royal, one of a kind, and a signifier of wealth and status. The bad with purple is that it's poisonous, greedy, and morally corrupt or dubious.
Oh, you're not going to shoot me, are you? If you do, I'll die. You know?
So purple is used in characters that are meant to stand out quite a bit, for better or for worse. Blue is seen in some pretty major and unchanging aspects of the world, like water and the sky. The good with blue is that it's seen as stable, reliable, and likely to be reasonable or logical when talked to or argued with. The bad with blue is that it's associated with being cold, emotionally detached, sociopathic, and logical to a fault. Blue is given to lots of characters that are usually stable, but sometimes emotionally unreactive or distant.
If I see you again, I will kill you and never think of you again.
Green is seen all throughout nature, I think that goes without saying. Green is seen as reliable and sometimes socially meek, unlikely to take the limelight. Depending on the hue and saturation, it can be seen as quite militaristic, but nonetheless reliable.
Got you.
Not a boisterous character, but a super dependable one. The bad of green, depending on where it's used on a character, as well as the hue and saturation, can represent sickness and illness. It can be plague-like. It can also be interpreted as morally corrupt. As someone's health decays, so do their standards. That's why the sick emoji has a green face rather than any other color. Yellow is seen in the sun and many different flowers, especially daisies and sunflowers. The good of yellow is that it's youthful, full of life and energy.
Orion, look! I have knife hands! I can see that.
I'm gonna cut these guys, watch! Come here!
And curious, which ties back to being young. The bad of yellow is that it's naive, dependent on others, meek, and can look biohazardous depending on the overall character design. If you use yellow as a trim and change it to look more metallic, it quickly comes across as gold-like, so it can tie a character to wealth and royalty, which have their own connotations associated with them. Another thing with yellow is that it is also somewhat seen on EMT or emergency service vehicles, as it's so bright it can be reflective and it really catches your attention. So for a character like David from Cyberpunk Edgerunners, the yellow both ties him back to his mother's jacket being an EMT, as well as him being really young and a bit naive when it comes to the way he's treating life. Orange. Orange is seen in fire. Hot metal, usually during forging or smithing, the changing leaves during fall, and sometimes in construction equipment. The good of orange is that it's associated with change, a change of character, an environment, and someone of higher energy. The bad of orange is that it can be too energetic and unstable. Someone may come off as hot-headed, stubborn, or headstrong, rushing in without a lot of forethought. Red. Red is seen in wine and blood. Typically meaning when it's present, someone's about to get fucked or fucked up. The good of red is that it's passionate, caring, romantic, and full of love and potential. The bad of red is that it's associated with danger, violent behavior, it's rageful, and lustful. Because humans have evolved to feel on edge at the sight of blood. Why do you think so many different warning signs and labels are in red?
I need you!
Such as the infamous exploding red barrel in different media.
Hasta luego.
There's been studies where seeing images with predominantly red colors in them increases people's heart rates and blood pressures by a measurable amount, which can lead to poorer decision making, compared to images with lots of blue, which seem to calm people's senses down. That's why lots of fast food companies choose warmer tones for their logos and advertising. It gets you excited and more likely to make bad decisions and spend. That's one of the main reasons why femme fatale designs typically use red, is because it's a color that will get you excited because it's dangerous and sexy.
Oh, shit. Hey.
I should also mention pink here. Especially over the last couple 100 years or so, pink has been exclusively used on girls and women, so it's quite hard to break the connection when you put it onto a man. So in most cases, when it's used, it's on a woman or a feminine man.
An
a
honor
pretty boy.
to share the stage with you.
So hot! And respectful. Oh no, the honor is ours.
No, it was ours.
No, it's ours.
Ours.
Earthy tones. Earthly tones are seen in wood, dirt, and some leathers. Earthy tones are created when you mess with oranges in saturation and value. The good of these tones is that they're reliable and dependable. You can always count on them to be consistent. The bad of earthy schemes is that they're seen as rather drab, boring, and uninteresting. They don't really grab attention all that well.
Ship can't drive straight, but can initiate an ion cannon. Old Drunkle's out. Time to do what I do best.
Oh, please.
Unless other colors are thrown into the scheme too. Many leathers have earthy tones but can sometimes be closer to red in hue. And sometimes some characters' hair tone or skin complexions can be part of their scheme. Now that we've covered all the major color distinctions, we can go into unique schemes and patterns with colors. Lots of artists, if they want to represent magic or advanced technology, will use colors ranging from pink and purple to blues and greens, sometimes landing on minty tones.
Can you really afford distractions now?
I couldn't wait for you to come through the cupboard.
Opposite colors. There are different color wheels to use, and sometimes you can have different primary colors from them. But going with the typical color wheel, you can get opposite colors for characters and schemes. Green and red are opposites. Yellow and purple are opposites.
There is a new sadness in you, brother.
No. I've simply grown tired of pretending I am content.
Perhaps I can share your burden.
You already do.
Blue and orange are opposites.
I'm afraid, Isaac. I don't want to die. But it's the only way out.
I'm not Nicole. Nicole's dead. You're not really here.
These opposites can be used within schemes or across characters to convey specific ideas. It's sometimes used to show the connection or opposition of ideals between characters, or the different temperaments and personalities between siblings.
I love a fast woman.
Shut up!
And we're supposed to be twins.
Twins. Right.
Another thing that colors can do is tie children to parents or a specific parent, such as with the new God of War games, Kratos' son. He has a little yellow in his cloth, which once they introduced his mom, you can see that she wears quite a bit of yellows. What this ends up telling the viewer is that Kratos' son is quite naive, young, maybe in need of a lot of guidance, but also that he's taking after his mother more rather than his father. There's also a rule called the 60-30-10 rule, which is in regards to the percentages of colors used on a character, but that's not always used for characters. Sometimes colors take up more space on a design than usual. Also, some characters' color palettes can change over time to fit different aesthetics as a franchise evolves. We can take Leon from Resident Evil, for example, such as Leon's shirt and pants swapping colors in the Resident Evil 4 remake, or the 3 different shirts they had in the concept art for Resident Evil 6. Capcom settled on the color blue because that's the color he's been associated with previously. Also, yellow would wash him out, especially with his complexion and hair. Red would make him look a little too much like Ada in that game. There's also some color combinations within a character scheme that can convey different ideas, such as having a near equal amount of blue and red to show that a character is passionate yet rather level-headed. Another color scheme an artist can use is one that has quite a bit of blue and yellow, basically in an equal amount, to show that a character is pretty stable when it comes to their personality, but that yellow is kind of hinting at how that character is maybe young at heart, almost to a point of naivety, like they refuse to change their world beliefs in a world that is kind of what they're doing or what they're thinking is not compatible with the way they live.
Mark, what are you doing? She's tearing you apart!
Yeah, I noticed.
Where all three primary colors can be involved in a design to show that this particular character is likely the protagonist.
Chai, is it?
Yep.
Profession, rock star?
Future rock star.
There's also the combination of green and purple, which is a rare sight in nature, so it makes a character look mutated or out of place, which is why those colors are typically used to represent acids and poisons.
You know how much that cost? How bloody long it will take me to make another. Well, I'll be damned.
There's a color scheme where, once again, it's kind of those greens and purples, but if you change the hues so it gets a bit more pinky, if you take the color out of them and you make them quite a bit desaturated, as well as you change the darkness so it's not super vibrant, you can get a very rotting corpse-esque color palette, and that's used a lot to kind of upset your visual senses because this is typically the colors you see on a dead body.
Fate had us meet as foes, but this ring will make us brothers.
Then if you add orange to that scheme, it comes off as really unnatural.
A little louder, lamb chop. I think you may have a collapsed lung. That always impedes the oratory.
They're noteworthy as you almost never see this palette in the natural world, so they come off as this thing opposite to the natural order of things, like their existence is out of touch with reality and needs to be corrected. Another palette is one that exists with lots of black and white, with typically no gray in it. This palette is seen in lots of suits, but it doesn't always mean that much. What it can convey to the viewer, though, is that a character sees many matters in a degree of binary, black or white. So they're likely dealing with absolutes when it comes to morals and decision making. Then there's the scheme of lots of black with a little red. This scheme is basically just an angry and immoral person. That's really it.
You look like a cut of fuckable meat, are you?
Next, we're going to cover my three favorite color palettes for characters. There's a palette of earthy tones mixed with another color, usually green or red, which means they're reliable with another quality attached to them, such as dependability and meekness, or anger and passion. Another thing to take into account is some of these color palettes, the amount of the colors used will change depending on the character, so technically the yellow could just be someone's hair instead of the golden trim, but it's technically all the same colors can be found, or one of the colors is more like a highlight to another color, especially if it's a leather. If you also add a little gold trim to this design, it makes them look regal, so you end up with a character that's royal, practical, and angry. Then we have a scheme that's mostly dark blues, with black, gray, and brown. This is almost always given to characters that are not sociable, but their personality is consistent. You can count on them to be themselves, even if they're not the most outgoing person. The scheme is usually given to people with blue to cyan-colored eyes, as the color scheme with their eyes typically match. The last scheme to talk about is one with lots of blacks, grays, and purple with a hint of red. This scheme is given to characters that maybe had some sort of fall from their morals. They're typically angry, a bit corrupt, and more than willing to use violence to get their way.
I will break before I yield.
And that is the basics of color psychology, another aspect taken into consideration with character design.